At my parents' 40th anniversary dinner,
Hello
my brother
friends,
mocked me in front of
welcome to
everyone.
back
You
my
mean
new
everything I did
story.
while you ran off to play rich businessman? Everyone laughed, including my dad. They didn't know I'd quietly paid off his $80,000 medical debt 8 months earlier. The folder was already in my jacket pocket. I'd been sitting on it for almost a year. The dinner was at the Italian place my parents got engaged at. 22 people, cousins flown in, dad in his good suit, mom crying happy tears every 15 minutes. I stood up to give a toast I'd been writing for 3 weeks. I thanked them for the early morning swim practice drives, for the porch light through college, for everything. I was halfway through when Roland leaned back, swirled his wine, and said it loud enough to land. You mean everything I did while you ran off to play rich businessman? The table laughed. My Aunt Marlene laughed. My cousin Sebastian laughed. My dad chuckled, shook his head, and patted Roland's shoulder. Mom giggled and said, "Be nice." But she was smiling. I stood there with the rest of my toast still on my screen. Roland's been the favorite since we were kids. He stayed local, works at a hardware store, shows up to Sunday dinners, fixes the gutters, drives mom to her appointments. I moved out at 18, built a logistics company over 15 years, and apparently in their minds, that meant I'd disappeared. The phrase rich businessman came out of Roland's mouth at every family event for a decade. They didn't know what I actually did with my money. 8 months ago, mom called me crying. Dad's stent surgery had hit a billing dispute. Insurance denied a chunk, then another chunk, then a third. The hospital sent it to collections. By the time mom called me, the total was just over $80,000, and dad was talking about taking out a second mortgage in his 70s. I told her not to worry. I asked her not to tell dad I was involved. I called the hospital, settled the full amount in one transfer, and asked them to send the paid in full letter to my P.O. box instead of my parents' house. Mom thought a payment plan had been arranged. Dad thought mom had handled it. Roland never asked. I'd never planned to bring it up. I figured dad would find out when the estate paperwork eventually surfaced, long after I was gone. But Roland kept laughing, and dad kept laughing with him. So I set my phone face down on the table. I reached into my jacket. I pulled out the folder. The laughter was still going. "Roland," I said, "can I borrow one more minute?" He smirked. "Take your time, big shot." I opened the folder. Inside was the hospital's settlement letter dated March 14th with my name on it, the wire confirmation, the collection agency's release notice. I set them on the table one at a time, facing dad. 8 months ago, the hospital was about to put a lien on this house, I said. Mom called me. I asked her not to tell anyone. I paid it off the next morning, $81,412. The table went quiet the way rooms only go quiet when something true lands. Mom's hand went over her mouth. Dad picked up the settlement letter. He stared at it for a long time. His jaw moved like he was trying to swallow something that wouldn't go down. Roland laughed once, shorter this time. "That's not funny. It's not a joke. Mom said it was a payment plan. Mom said what I asked her to say." Roland turned to her. She was crying now, the quiet kind. "Sweetheart," she whispered to dad. "I'm sorry. He made me promise." Dad set the letter down. He looked at Roland, then at me, then at his hands. Aunt Marlene, who'd laughed the loudest, suddenly found her napkin very interesting. Sebastian stared at his plate. Roland's face had gone a shade of red I hadn't seen since we were teenagers. "Why didn't you say anything?" Dad asked quietly. "Because I didn't do it for the credit. I did it because you're my dad." I looked at Roland. "I never wanted you to know, but you keep making the same joke. And tonight dad laughed at it, so I'm done letting it happen." I closed the folder. I picked up my glass. "To 40 years, I said, "and to the version of this family that actually shows up for each other, whatever that looks like." I drank. Nobody else did at first. Then dad stood up. His eyes were wet. He raised his glass without a word, looked straight at me, and drank the whole thing. Roland left before dessert. Mom called me the next morning to apologize for laughing. Dad called me that afternoon. The first time in 9 years he dialed me first. He didn't say much, just, "I should have known. I'm sorry I laughed." I told him it was okay. I meant it. The folder is in a drawer in my office now. I doubt I'll ever need it again.